Howdy, my name is Bob Burns. I am the Cavalry Site Manager for Parsons Mounted Cavalry here at Texas A&M. I'm the class of '74 and I've been in this position 17 years. We developed this method of handling horses early on my career. We didn't develop it, we copied it from a lot of different natural horsemanship type folks. But by doing this, we cut our injury rate by almost 90%. Injury of riders, almost 90%. So this method has proven itself to be really successful and helpful in establishing leadership in a horse's mind and also giving confidence to the rider. So you'll remember from the catching and tying, or the catching, tying, and haltering video, the first thing you do is try to catch them with two eyes, and then you get them to yield their head down to pressure. Again, that's you grab the rope with your thumb down, you lead with your body, you breathe out, and you ask them to lead their head down. The critical element is to let go, to release pressure the minute that they respond, or the second. All right? All right. Remember that a horse is a herd animal, and they establish dominance amongst each other by who can make the other one move their feet without moving their feet. So we'll show you how that works in the human-horse interaction here in a moment. But it's important to understand that what we're doing here is we're asking horses to yield to pressure and release. And we say that there's 5 stages of pressure. There's no pressure, and then there's air, hair, skin, muscle, bone. So that might look like this. Air might just look, no pressure might just raise your hand. Air, come on Artie. Air, hair, so hair might just be touching the hair. Skin might be a little bit more. Muscle might be a little bit more. Bone might be a really hard press. 90% of these horses respond to air and hair. So those are the stages of pressure, and we do them in order to get in the horse's mind that he is yielding to his leader. And that makes him much more tractable, much safer. Now, these stages of pressure are in no particular order. We tend to do them in the same order. In every horse, we never get on a horse that hasn't done their groundwork, and so they're used to groundwork. However, there's no need to do them in this order, but I'm going to teach them to you in the order that we teach our cadets. So the first one is yield the body, and this is not backing. Backing is taking a device like a halter and telling the horse to back. That's not what this is. This is yielding to pressure. And we stand in front of the horse, we plant our feet. We don't ever want to move our feet when we ask this horse to yield. So we're going to take a good erect posture. We're going to look at the horse, and the second he yields a foot, we'll give some release. If we want him to go back more, we'll apply more pressure until he is moving in whatever direction, at whatever speed we'd like him to do. Then we'll ask him to come back to us gently, give him a little rub. We don't ever feed horses anything out of our hands in this program, and we might ask him again. And after you've worked with a horse for a while, you can almost come up to him and point your finger at him and ask them to yield, and they'll yield their body back. So that's the first one. Actually, the first one is give you 2 eyes and yield the head down. This is the second one. All right, the third yield, this is always done best with a long lead rope. You're not trying to lead the horse around, which is what happens with a short lead rope, and I'll demonstrate that for you in a minute. But you want a long lead rope with some heft to it. These are really good lead ropes. They have a heavy clip here. We use these rope halters. They should be correctly adjusted, but you got to be able to give them some cue as to what you want. So then we'll step to the hindquarters, and we'll ask this horse to move his hindquarters, crossing his feet and leaving his forequarters. We don't care if they're stock, but we'd like him crossing his feet, moving his hindquarters, and we'll do that from both directions. And we tend to just look at the hock, maybe give a little flip with the rope, but don't continue to apply pressure once you're getting the behavior that you want. So it is not taking the horse and leading him in a circle. That's not what this is. There should be no pressure on his head. He should simply respond to pressure as you ask his hocks to move around. And you can check him a little going forward, that's fine. Once you get a crossover, that's good. All right, we never do anything on the ground that we're not going to transfer into the saddle. So, you know, when you ask a horse to yield their head down, you're eventually going to ask that horse from the saddle to yield at the pole. And they'll get used to doing that because they've yielded their head down. You're also going to ask, you're going to take a rein and you're going to ask this horse to move over with the rein pressure, correct? So we may transition that a little bit at some point, but that's the reason we're moving the forequarter. At the hindquarter, we're going to eventually take our heel and ask this horse to move his hindquarters around. And so this gets him used to moving his hindquarters around with a stimulus, which in this case it can be a rope or it can be your heel, and that's the reason that we do these yields this way. Then the last one we do before we're in the saddle or mounted is we ask them to yield their head around for the emergency stop that we're going to cue when we first get on the horse. And that looks like standing here at the withers, maybe one hand on their withers, and just asking them gently to bring their head around to where your foot would be. Again, you do that on both sides. And when you get on your horse, it's the first thing you'll do when you get on them. And we call that setting the emergency brake. One of the things that our cadets are taught is don't try to school too much from the saddle. So if you get in the saddle, most horse people think once they get on, they never get off. You know, it's a sign of weakness. Well, that's just not true. Horses learn a lot easier and quicker from the ground. So if, for instance, the horse won't side pass or he won't turn left or won't turn right, instead of sitting up there jerking and kicking on him, get off and redo your groundwork. Take yourself out of the formula until he's pretty clear on what the cues are. Okay, a common practice in the horse business is lunging your horse, and they do it for all kinds of reasons. It's typically taught in a round pen. You put the horse at the end of a long lead, you move them around, you reverse directions, you do all those things. However, in practicality, it ends up people just running their horse in circles, and they're not really learning anything except to go around that circle. So instead of doing that, we do what's called draw and drive. And also, this doesn't require a round pen or a long lunge line or a lunge whip. It's a way to move a horse just like they would move when you're in the saddle. So draw and drive looks like horses read body language, and it looks like your body up and out like this, and some stimulus applied to the horse. Ask him to move out. And once you kind of get going, You can do it by planting your feet, bringing them back, drawing them the other way. You can drive them all across the arena. This is a driving exercise. Keep your eyes pointed where you want them to go. Use stimulus to ask them to slow down if you're asking them to slow down. Look out. Drive them forward. It can be a stroll in the park. But when you draw, you pull the horse in, switch hands, switch sides, and drive from the other side. Again, just relax. Let the horse relax. Don't be afraid to go back. But keep your hands where you want them to go and your eyes where you want them to go. If they get going too fast, so I'm just reinforcing this behavior. When I draw, I switch hands, bring the lead rope up, and drive him in the other direction. Breathing's important here. Just breathe slow and easy. Don't get flustered with your horse. Draw them and drive them away. Soon, you can almost plant your feet, drive them, draw them towards you, drive them away, draw them towards you, drive them away, ask them to whoa, and let them relax. That does so many things that lunging doesn't do. Reverses directions, gets them used to both sides of their body being cued, gets them used to reins on both sides of the body, and gets them used to someone other than in the front telling them where to go, which is what's going to happen when the rider gets in the saddle or when we're driving him in teams. We do a lot of teamwork here. They're going to have a teamster behind them or beside them, moving them along. All right, so there's some horse mentality things that you need to be aware of as a horseman. One of them is that the leader in a horse herd eats first. So if your horse is eating grass and you're not down there eating, in his mind, he's the leader. So we try to never allow our horses to eat when we're holding them or riding them or working with them, because in their mind, then they're the leader. They are getting to eat first and you're not down there eating with them, so they must be in control. So we've got a little obstacle here. It's kind of strange looking. We use it, it's a drag we use for our teams to add weight when we're pulling them. But some principles to understand that we use for training horses are approach, retreat. Approach, retreat. Approach a little more, retreat a little less. Approach, let them touch it with their nose, maybe get them over. So that looks like this. Approach, maybe get a little look, retreat. Approach a little more. Let them have a smell. Give them a little rub. Retreat. If it was something that was really driving them crazy, you can go closer. So you could go approach this close and then retreat away a little. And then the next time approach a little more. And if you can force yourself not to look at the obstacle, the horse will be much more responsive. If you're looking where you want them to go, then they have confidence in you as the leader. So in this obstacle here, we're going to ask him just to come up here. He's been up. We're going to ask him to come over it. We're not going to look at it. We're not going to look at him. We're just for a stroll in the park. If you want to do it drawing and driving, which is probably what you should do at the end, again, you'll get him driving correctly. Ask him to go over, maybe drawing back, switch hands, maybe ask him to go over the other way. If he doesn't do it exactly correct, just bring him back, refocus him, ask him to move over. Now, if he's refusing both ways, what do? You always go back a step. So you go back to the leader leading him over the object. Should he really refuse, then you could go back to yielding the body. You could ask him, hey, I'm the leader here. Remember, where I ask you to go is where I want you to go. All right? Let's try him one more time on the draw and drive. We always want to stop on a high note. So once he's done it, we'll say ho, and just let him relax a minute. Go on to the next thing. That brings up another point. So horses are a prey animal, and we're predators. So we want to avoid as much as possible predatory behavior. And patting is predatory behavior. Rubbing is horse behavior. All right? So when we're working with horses, we rub, but we don't pat. In our program here, we never touch a horse below the cheekbones. We don't mess with their little nose. We don't kiss them on the little mouth. We don't give them little treats. Because when they're in the public, like at the Rose Parade or places we go, some little kid sticks his hand up there and he's got his thumb up and that horse is eating carrots, he might just take that thumb off. So a way to reward horses is just rub them right here. They really can't rub right there. Give them a little rub right here. And then always make sure that your horse is respecting your space. So if I ask this horse to stand there, I don't want him up here on my shoulder. I don't want him in my space. If he comes into my space, I ask him with the lead rope to back up. If he doesn't, we do what we call chicken wings. And we ask him to move back out of our space, preferably without moving our feet. All right? So again, pressure and release. It's all about the release. It's not about the stages of pressure, which are air, hair, skin, muscle, bone. It's about how quick you can release pressure to teach that horse. Pressure motivates, but it's release that teaches.